All right, good morning. Welcome to your first flipped classroom video for pre-calculus. Don't forget to put your name at the top of the notes, please. Follow along. If you have any questions, jot them down on the side and bring them into class tomorrow, and I'd be happy to answer them. This unit should be a review. We are doing notes 1.1a, lines in the plane. So just a reminder, the slope of m of the non-vertical line through x1, y1, and x2, y2. We have our equation for slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is also the same thing as the change in y over the change in x, which is also the same thing as rise over run, if you've seen that before. Just to note, it doesn't matter what order you do this in, if you did y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2, but these points have to stay together and these points have to stay together. So whatever you pick as your 1, they need to line up with each other, and whatever you pick as your 2, those need to line up with each other. So let's go through these examples real quick. Find the slope of the line passing through each pair of points. So I'm just going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2. So we do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 is negative 2. So don't forget that there is that negative sign there in that equation. So this would be 1 over minus makes a plus. 3 plus 2 is 5. Slope is 5 there. So same thing here. Crank them out. x1, y1, x2, y2. y2 is 2 minus y1 is 2 over x2 is 2 minus x1. Say minus. So we would get 0 over 2 minus makes a plus. 2 plus 1 is 3. 0 divided by 3 is 0. We have a slope of 0. All right, last one, x1, y1, x2, y2. We get negative 1 minus 4 over 3 minus 3. Negative 1 minus 4 is negative 5. Over 3 minus 3 is 0. We can't divide by 0 because that is undefined. We can't take 5 things and put them into nothing. We do not have the power of disintegration yet. So that would be undefined. Okay, next, slope of a line. A slope of a line with a positive slope rises from left to right. That means it's increasing. If it's a positive slope, it's increasing. It's going up. Slope of a line with a negative slope falls from left to right. It's decreasing. We look at graphs from left to right just like we read. A line with a slope of 0 is horizontal. It's flat. It's not increasing. There's no rise. And a slope of a line with an undefined slope is vertical, falling off the cliff. Okay, point slope form of a line. Point slope form of an equation of a line passes through the point x1, y1, and it has a slope of m. We can use the form y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we have two different types, or we have multiple different types, but the main two are usually point slope and slope intercept form. We're going to look at point slope first. It asks us to find an equation of a line that passes through this point and has this slope. All that we're literally doing is just plugging these in. We have our x1 and our y1 points here, and we have our slope, that's m. We're just plugging it into the equation. Y minus y1 is negative 2, and then we have m is 3 times x minus x1 is 1. Minus makes a plus, and then we have 3 times x minus 1. This would be our point slope form of our line. That would be acceptable. If we wanted to change this into slope intercept form, we still could. I'm just going to recopy this over here so that we can manipulate it. We would distribute the 3, and we could move the 2 over. We would get y equals 3x minus 5. And there's our slope intercept form there. It's a little bit prettier and easier to work with, but both of these are the same line. All right. Next page, let's get into a linear model. So this is something that we can do with any of our linear equations. We're modeling our graph. So it says in 2011, Tyson Foods has a sale of $32.266 billion, and in 2012, the sales were $33.278 billion. Doing pretty good. Write a linear equation giving the sales y in terms of the year x, then use the equation to predict the sales for 2013. So first, we're going to say let x equals 0 represent 2000. So if we were going to like talk about years, we could say x equals 11 would be the year 2011, and x equals 12 would be the year 2012. To keep it simpler, it doesn't matter what we're assigning it as long as we're consistent in that to be able to see it forward. So if x is 11 for 2012, what were our sales, or in 2011, what were our sales in 2011? We have 32.266, and we're going to remember that that's in billions, but we're not going to like write it out every single time as billions because that doesn't make for pretty math. But in the end, we'll know that the units there are billions. And then in 2012, we have 33.278 billion. And so now we have a point and a point. We have an x1, y1, and an x2, y2. It wants us to give a linear equation. So can we find a slope? Oh yeah, we can. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 33.278 minus 32.266 all over x2 is 12 minus x1 is 11. Oh yeah, we got this. Super easy. 33.278 minus 32.266 gives us 1.012 over 12 minus 11 is just 1. So 1.02. We got our slope. That's our m. So now all that we need to do is to use the point slope form to find the equation of a line. We have our point, or we have 2 points. We can pick one, and we have a slope. I should have made this space bigger, and I should have written smaller. Sorry, guys, I got a little excited. So we're going to use our point slope formula. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And we can plug this in. So we would start, I'm going to write it down here. Y minus y1, we'll just use this here. 32.266 equals m, 1.012, times x minus x1 was 11. This is an equation of a line. Sorry. We could simplify it further into slope-intercept form. I would actually like for you to try that on your own. Pause the video, see if you can distribute and move that over to get it into slope-intercept form, just like we did on this last example here. Once you're done with that, you can go ahead and tune into the last example, which is where we're getting into slope-intercept of a line. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. This is just saying 0, b, that's our y-intercept. That's where our graph crosses the y-axis, and m is where our slope is. This is the most common form of a line. So determine the slope and y-intercept of the linear equation, then describe its graph. So we need this in this form. So I need to solve for y. Anytime that I'm looking to find it in slope-intercept form, that means I need to solve for y. So y equals negative x plus 2. So our slope here is our m, what value is in front of our x, which is a negative 1. There's an imaginary 1 in front of that x. And our y-intercept, or our b, is 2. So that's that point, 0, 2. Describing this graph, well, we see that we have a negative slope, so this would be a decreasing line. We know it's a line because there's just an x and no exponents there. Y equals 2. This is already in slope-intercept form. It's already solved for y, but there's actually a 0 in front of that x. It's imaginary. So we actually have 0, x plus 2. So our slope is 0. We don't have a slope, but our y-intercept, or we do have a slope, it's 0. Our y-intercept is also 0, too. So what kind of line would this be? If we have a slope of 0, we can look back to our notes here. Slope of 0 is horizontal. It's going to stay flat. It's not increasing. So this would be a horizontal line through y equals 2. So it looks like this. We go up to 2, and it's just a horizontal line. All right, lastly, we're just going to look at the summary of the equations of lines. We have different styles of line, or different forms. We have general forms. This is general form, also known as standard form. This one is used, but not as often as the other two. General form, x equals a, that's a vertical line. If anytime that it's x equal, you know it's vertical. Anytime that it's y equals, it's horizontal. I used to get these confused myself back in the day. And the way that I think about it is you remember that it's vertical when it's an x value because it's actually going through the x-axis. You see that? It's crossing the x-axis. And you remember that it's horizontal for the y because it's going through the y-axis there. Okay, next, y equals mx plus b is slope-intercept form. And this y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 is point slope form. All right, please make sure that you filled in these notes. Go ahead and submit them. And in class tomorrow, we will be working through the practice problems together. Thanks, guys.